There's something unsettling about the person sitting across from you at dinner. They're charming, confident, saying all the right things, but something feels off. You can't quite place it. Maybe it's the way their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes, or how their sympathy feels rehearsed rather than genuine. Because here's what most people get completely wrong about psychopaths. They are not the wild-eyed killers you see in movies. They are the colleague who never seems rattled, the date who seems almost too perfect, the friend who always knows exactly what to say. Understanding how their minds actually work might be the most important psychological knowledge you'll ever gain. Let's start with the brain itself, because this is where everything changes. When researchers put psychopaths into fMRI machines and showed them images designed to trigger emotional responses, pictures of suffering, fear, distress, something remarkable happened. Or rather, did not happen. The amygdala, that almond-shaped cluster of neurons responsible for processing emotions like fear and empathy, barely flickered. In a typical brain, these images would light up the amygdala like a Christmas tree. In a psychopathic brain, it stays dim. This is not a choice. It is architecture. Imagine going through life without that gut punch feeling when you see someone in pain, without that instinctive wince when you witness cruelty. For most people, these responses are automatic, impossible to suppress. For psychopaths, they simply do not exist in the same way. It is not that they are suppressing empathy. It is that the hardware for automatic emotional resonance is fundamentally different. But here is where it gets interesting. Researchers discovered something they call the empathy switch. Psychopaths can actually turn empathy on when they want to. When instructed to imagine how someone else feels, their brain activity starts to look more normal. They can understand emotions intellectually. They can analyze them, predict them, even mimic them convincingly. What they cannot do is feel them automatically and instinctively, the way you feel a sharp pain when you stub your toe. This is why they are often so good at reading people. They have spent their entire lives studying human behavior from the outside. While you navigate social situations through feeling, they navigate through observation and calculation. They have learned that when a person's voice gets quiet and their shoulders drop, that means sadness. When a person's face flushes and their words get clipped, that means anger. They know the signs better than most people because they had to learn what others absorb naturally. Now imagine what this means in practice. You are negotiating a difficult conversation with someone who can read every micro-expression on your face, while remaining completely unaffected themselves. They can see your fear, your uncertainty, your desperation, and none of it triggers a sympathetic response in them. They can push exactly as hard as needed, without feeling uncomfortable about it. This is why psychopaths are overrepresented in certain professions, not just criminal ones. CEOs, surgeons, lawyers, journalists, salespeople. These are fields where the ability to make cold decisions under pressure, to remain calm when others panic, to detach from emotional noise, provides a genuine advantage. The surgeon who can cut into a child's chest without their hands shaking. The CEO who can lay off 1,000 employees and sleep soundly that night. The lawyer who can defend someone they know is guilty without their conscience intervening. Not all of them are psychopaths, obviously, but the traits overlap in ways that might surprise you. This brings us to something most people do not realize. Psychopathy exists on a spectrum. Researchers estimate that roughly 1% of the general population could be classified as psychopaths using clinical assessments. But psychopathic traits, such as superficial charm, lack of remorse, manipulation, and fearlessness, exist in varying degrees across the entire population. You probably have some. Your boss definitely has some. That incredibly successful entrepreneur everyone admires almost certainly scores higher than average. The difference between a psychopath and someone with psychopathic tendencies is like the difference between a professional athlete and someone who is just naturally good at sports. It is a matter of degree, not kind. But let's talk about what it actually feels like to interact with one. You've probably done it without knowing. Picture this. You're having a conversation and they are fully engaged, making eye contact, asking questions, responding appropriately. But something feels hollow. Like you are talking to someone who is performing the role of interested friend rather than actually being one. That's because, in a very real sense, they are performing. Psychopaths learn early that they are different. They notice that others seem to have emotional experiences they do not share, so they adapt. They watch, they learn, they practice. They develop what researchers call a mask, a convincing performance of normalcy that allows them to move through the world undetected. Some become so good at this that they genuinely believe their own performance. They have played the role so long that the line between acting and being blurs even for them. Here's what's particularly fascinating. Many psychopaths describe their inner experience as empty. Not sad, not angry, just empty. They feel boredom intensely and constantly seek stimulation to escape it. Risk-taking, manipulation, even cruelty can all serve as ways to feel something in a world that otherwise feels flat. This is not an excuse. It is an explanation. When you understand that someone is essentially trying to feel alive in any way they can, their behavior makes a different kind of sense. The thrill of getting away with something, the power of controlling another person, the excitement of risk, these become the substitutes for the emotional richness that others experience naturally. Now consider what this means for relationships. A psychopath can be incredibly attentive during the pursuit phase. They study you, learn what you want to hear, and become exactly the person you have been looking for. This is not love. It is acquisition. They want something you have: status, resources, entertainment, or a sense of normalcy, and they are willing to perform whatever role is necessary to get it. The intensity that feels so romantic at the beginning is actually predatory focus. The connection that seems so deep is actually calculated mirroring. And when you are no longer useful, when the mask becomes too exhausting to maintain, when someone more interesting comes along, they move on with a casualness that leaves you questioning your entire reality. This is what researchers call the aftermath. That period after a relationship with a psychopath, when you struggle to reconcile who you thought they were with what you now realize was happening. You replay conversations, looking for the signs you missed. You wonder how someone could say, "I love you," while feeling nothing. You question your own judgment because you were so completely fooled. But here is what you need to understand. You were not stupid. They were just extraordinarily good at a game they have been playing their entire lives. Their mask was refined through thousands of interactions, calibrated through endless observation. Being fooled by a skilled psychopath is not a character flaw. It is the natural result of encountering someone who has spent decades perfecting deception. So what do you actually do with this knowledge? You develop what psychologists call appropriate skepticism. You learn to pay attention when charm feels too smooth, when stories do not quite add up, when someone's words consistently do not match their actions. You notice when someone never takes responsibility, when every X is described as crazy, when empathy seems performative rather than genuine. You trust that uncomfortable feeling in your gut, that sense that something is off, even when you cannot explain why. Because your instincts are often detecting what your conscious mind has not yet processed. But perhaps the most important thing to understand is this. Psychopaths teach us something crucial about the nature of human connection itself. When you interact with someone whose empathy is intellectual rather than emotional, you realize how much of normal human bonding happens automatically, unconsciously, beneath the level of awareness. The way you instinctively mirror someone's posture, the way you feel secondhand embarrassment at someone else's awkwardness, the way your heart aches when you see a stranger crying. These are not just nice feelings. They are the invisible threads that bind us together as social creatures. The psychopath, standing outside this web of automatic connection, reveals its existence by their absence from it. They show us, through contrast, what we normally take for granted. In a strange way, understanding how they see the world can make you appreciate your own emotional experience more deeply. The capacity to feel another's pain is not just inconvenient, it is what makes genuine human connection possible. It is the price of entry to a life that means something beyond the pursuit of stimulation and power. And that is a price most of us pay without ever realizing we are paying it at all.